So Philip Kinsella, he's written many books, many articles about UFOs, but also other things. He is also a medium, although I think we're not doing that today, but he has insights into what's going on with ETs, and especially the greys and claims of abductions. And I think we're going to get a really interesting perspective on what that may all be about today. So please give a big hand for Philip Kinsella.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and it's a delight to be here. One of the things that I will say to all of you is that no matter how much the system tells you that we live and die and that's it, it's a load of rubbish. We are eternal, brilliant, beautiful souls. And if there's one thing I have discovered in this life is that the system will make you believe that you are just a slave, a servant. One of the things that the system has done so cleverly is try to deny soul survival and UFOs. How did I become interested in UFOs? Well, I was always a weird kid anyway. I have an identical twin brother who is an author and artist himself, and we're very close. We like the same things. So the world was very strange to me as a child. And the illusion of this life being just living and dying was shattered in 1989 when I had what most people would consider to be an abduction by greys, aliens. Of course, I knew where I stood with regards to this. No one would believe me. Why would I want to convince anyone of that fact? But I believe the encounter happened in order to open something much deeper on a more psychological level, because I'm very practical, very scientific in my understanding of the universe, of what we are, what we represent. And the greys and the abduction phenomena is something that I have always been fascinated by. I wanted to know what the greys were. Why are they doing what they're doing? Is there any truth behind the claims? And why is it so secret? When I had my abduction in 1989, it was very, very traumatic. I can't and will not go into detail, only to tell you that the whole experience sounded very and felt very ethereal. And I wondered how it was that greys are able to transport an abductee through walls and doors. Because most of the time, most people who have an abduction by aliens go through walls and doors. During the process of my abduction, which was very traumatic for me at the time, I found myself laying on a medical bed. And there were 3 reptilian creatures behind some fog. Needless to say, I was naked, very embarrassing, I'm afraid. And yes, they had put a foreign implement in the lower part of the anatomy, of which, you know, even on mainstream television, I was the butt of many jokes. Okay, just doesn't matter. I'm fine with it now. But the experience was horrifying. It was almost like rape. And I came back with physical marks, 3 marks on my arm. I couldn't walk very well for a week, and I had a triangular mark behind my right ear, and I suffered intense nosebleeds to the right nose. Yeah, someone says to me, you went to the doctor? Yeah, sure, I went to the doctor, yeah. I was raped by some aliens, they stuck something up wherever, and they're going to believe me, aren't they? So for many years, I suffered in silence, and during that time, back in 1989, I wasn't really in link with wonderful people or researchers or other people who've had these experiences. And then in moving forward, in 1996, I had a theory published in a magazine, a big magazine, Alien Encounters then, that they considered revolutionary within its speculation. Now, I'm not egotistical. I just wanted to find what these greys were, where they come from, why they're doing what they're doing, and how they do it, and why no one was talking about it. And what I discovered, startlingly, was the fact that the greys seem to be outside of our dimension, which means that although Hollywood has sold us the story that they are physical in nature and come from a physical universe, I'm not denying that. There could be other factions of greys, but how was it that greys are able to abduct someone through walls and doors? Okay, and why are they interested in the reproduction program? Have any of you, most of you, heard about the reproduction program with the Greys? Anyone here? Yes, a few of you. Yeah, mind-boggling, isn't it? Well, the other thing is that, yes, throughout the experience that I had with the aliens, I did end up writing a book about how wonderful and beautiful we all are, and how, regardless of what the system has you believe, that you're just a flesh and blood creature with a sell-by date. So then, all of a sudden, clairvoyance started with me. And I couldn't believe that 1 minute I was dealing with UFOs and aliens, the next I'm talking to the dead. I thought my reputation would go from here right down the bottom, completely. But I wanted to find the truth of soul survival, and I wanted to find the truth of UFOs, which we are still seeking today. There's Believe, a groundbreaking theory which bridges the gap between the psychic and UFO phenomena. So let me go on a little bit about the process of the abduction. The abduction itself is very similar to a near-death experience, because when I had gone through the primary motions of the abduction, my body was taken from its physical housing. How is that possible? And if the Greys were utilizing this, what were they? Were they spirits? I don't know, I couldn't tell you. But I had to create a model, or some type of hypothetical model, to reconstruct what I think is going on. I then was involved with Brenda Butler, who was one of the very first investigators into the UK's Rendlesham Forest UFO incident, and we co-authored a book called Sky Crash Throughout Time that came back out in 2013. So as you can see, this regular theme of UFOs and spirits was continuous. And my twin brother wrote a book called Twin Souls, An Exploration into the Unknown, which was published by Capelbaum Publishing Company. Now, the Greys themselves, and all this art on here, I have to tell you, not the book covers, that's publishers, but all the art you see has been created by my twin brother, who's an artist as well. So the Greys were indeed a puzzle. Why were they abducting people? And why did Hollywood try and cover it all up, and the media cover it up like it's like something like from space? Well, I believe what was going on, what is still going on today, is that the Greys are interested in reproduction because they themselves cannot reproduce. They are creating some form of hybridized being, or, interdimensional being. For what? For what reason? I met Dr. David Jacobs in America and Arizona, and he believes that they're here among us. I don't doubt that. And of course, the John E. Mack as well, too, was also investigating the abduction phenomena. And we've got so many varieties of different explanations about what we think they are. That's important. I will always ask you to believe what you believe them, but I believe that these beings are outside the field of creation. What do I mean by that? Well, you yourself had parents that brought you into this world through the normal process of reproduction. Yeah? Would you agree? I hope so. Are there any aliens here? So, we are conceived naturally, okay? Let's suppose, for instance, that the Greys were once a race that could reproduce. And through the process of cloning themselves, totally cloning, removed them away from being able to reproduce. How can I explain that? Okay, so if I took one of you, you're a human being, you've been born through the correct channel on this planet, you come into the world through, ingestion and then come through. If I were to clone you, let's say 1,000 times, okay, you have got the God spark of light, the soul inside you as the original copy. And your clones would perhaps have a spark of that, a small spark of you, so that when you die, your soul returned back to what people call the spirit world, other dimensions, call it what you will. It returns home. But what happens to the copies that do not have and have not had a past or a future? All they know is one single reality. Do you get that? Are you understanding that? The clones will be outside the field of creation because they haven't come to the right channel that you have, and therefore, if they've been created genetically, They will have no past or future. So let's suppose that the Greys themselves have done this. And when they die, when they physically die, their soul is no longer able to return back to where they come from or where we come from, because they're outside the field of creationalism. Okay, you have a past, you have a present, you have a future. We understand about the other side, about death. And I believe that's why something happened to me in order to further my understanding of what we are and what we may be dealing with. So let's suppose these Greys have cloned themselves, okay, and their physical copies have died, and the spark of that consciousness has perhaps amalgamated itself somewhere else in another dimension as one hive mind consciousness. And they found us. They found a race that can reproduce. And the way that they infiltrate our dimension, perhaps, is through the most bizarre means, because their UFOs change shape in an instant. They're able to manifest themselves very quickly. In a normal abduction process, when they extract the soul from a person into their surroundings, your soul is matched with them, so they'll be able to physically interact. The same with what we will be able to do in the spirit world, okay? The Greys don't understand about time, about love, about food, color, taste, nothing. These attributes, they're devoid of all these things that make us human. They don't understand. And yet we have this process whereby they're abducting people all over the world and creating these said hybrids. So a human female will carry a hybrid, a physical hybrid, by the way, okay? So it looks to me like the Greys are interested in human reproduction stroke alien reproduction because, one, they want to bring these hybrids into the birthing cycle into our physical realm, from one dimension to another, and maybe at the same time slingshot themselves back when they die to where they've been denied. Sorry, I'll go back. Now, sorry, we're going a little bit forward here. I do apologize. Now, the Roswell case, a lovely picture my twin brother did. The Roswell started all this, really, brought this to the public's attention, as well as the famous Kenneth Arnold sighting of UFOs. And then the Roswell crash came. And of course, as we all know, the whole thing was covered up. But I believe the reality of that is so shocking that if we understood the truth of what these things really are, we might be very worried. Why is it, do you think, that the military have kept this secret? Why is there continual denial? If you, most of you, maybe known or unknown, felt that something strange had happened to you through some kind of dream state or abduction that I had gone through that was very severe and very frightening, I wanted to find out what we were dealing with here. Now, when someone is being abducted, it's very much like a near-death experience, except the near-death experience is positive, the abduction is negative. So when someone passes over to the other side, their soul leaves their body, they go down a tunnel or wherever, they feel euphoric, they meet loved ones who communicate with them telepathically. Everything seems so real, and they are interacting with their environment, which to them seems physical. Now let's take a look at the abduction phenomena. The person, in more cases than not, is taken through walls and doors. They're taken on board a craft. The entities communicate with them via telepathy. And the Greys are able to scan people's thoughts very quickly. They can read your minds, very brilliant. The same with those in spirit world on a positive note. So, are we looking at something that somehow infiltrated our plane of reality because they want out through their own mistakes of cloning? One of the theoretical things that has really interested me with regards to cloning is this. Will those clones have a soul? And then we come back to that wonderful film that was written by the book, Blade Runner, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, Philip K. Dick. And if you watch Blade Runner, it's very interesting because the clones don't know if they have a soul. And the same with the Greys themselves. Now, I'm not saying that all of them are, coming here from another dimension because they've died, they found us, they're using us as incubators to create a physical entity to carry their souls, part human, part alien, in and then send them back again. I'm not saying that applies to every single species of aliens, because I do believe there's quite a few of them. But one of the things we have to ask ourselves is, why is it happening? It is happening. And each time and every time, the system will make us look like we are idiots. It was only last April, my niece, who's also my PA, was witness to them as well. There were 3 UFOs coming over our house. And I believe also that people who are psychic, who are open, send out signals, waves of energy. And these other energies or intelligences are attracted to those energies because they're different from, say, someone that's light is a lot lower, because the system has bled them dry and keeps their nose to the ground. So what I'm going to say to you is that I don't believe that this is a really negative thing that we're going through. I believe that the Greys are doing what they're doing and they're trying to cover it. Yes, through a cloak of deceit. But they don't seem to be harming us. Now, there are conflicting stories as well, too. There are conflicting issues with regards to the military having a hand in this. I will not deny that. I absolutely believe that the military-industrial complex has got their hand and claw linked together with the Greys, maybe on a very different level of reality. It would appear that throughout all of researchers and UFO researchers' books and works, that when you actually see these things, most people are absolutely horrified. Horrified. Because of their difference from us. And I believe also that, what I'm starting to understand is that I do believe as well with the Greys and the alien issue is that there may have been some form of exchange of technologies. The military use psychics. They use psychics to try and communicate with aliens, something that would appear almost like something from science fiction. But let me tell you, did you also know that the creator of Star Trek, Gene Roddenberry, also sat in circle with psychics? And where do you think he got his ideas from? From the mediums. And you have all these wonderful people in the world who are having these experiences, and yet we are told that what we're dealing with is nothing less than rubbish. We had the spate of the Belgium sightings back in the 90s, where huge triangular UFOs, courtesy of my brother here, were seen. And then they changed their shape and image in an instant. That is amazing technology. I do not denounce the fact that the military may themselves have replicated these types of craft. But when you are dealing with the Greys, the lights that we saw last April were incredible. And they come as orbs, lights. They're able to manifest themselves at will. They even, when some people have been abducted, they actually, bring their dead relatives on board. How is that possible? Because the Greys have access to your mind and mental state. They can control you. They can. They're very powerful in the mental state, but not so much in the physical. They're quite diminutive. So my research led me onto understanding, what are we actually dealing with here? And yet the system has tried to make me look like a fool, an idiot. Oh, don't believe him, he writes science fiction and children's books, Yeah, that's great, isn't it? Put you in a little box and pigeonhole you and put you away. I even had an email from someone that says that what I do, they believe that what I do is a lie. Well, good luck, doesn't bother me. What we're after is the truth, whatever truth that form comes in. Now, going back to the abduction phenomenon, what's interesting is this, is that each and every one of you has a soul. Whether you believe that or not, it is true. When people pass over to the other side, they do not deny themselves, so they're in existence. You're not going to deny yourself being here now, the same with those that have crossed over. And it seems that the Greys themselves are very interested in this journey of the soul. It's almost as if, because of their cloning techniques, perhaps, I'm not saying that that is a fact, we have to use the theoretical model, perhaps through their cloning, it's made them realize that cloning is damaging. And I think we as a species have to just step back for a moment and consider the enormous spiritual ramifications involved if we start to clone humans. Okay, we're in a mess now, we may be even a further mess later on. Something interesting as well, I will tell you, that happened. And, you know, we're all special. In my books, we're all unique. I don't care if you're the man with the can or the queen with the crown. One thing I do know is that each and every one of us are brilliant. We have our own beliefs and our own structured systems. Good. But this will make you laugh, I think. I had a wisdom tooth taken out not long ago, and my right ear's always given me some trouble. So I went to the doctors. Hadn't had my ear checked out since I was a kid, I don't think. And they had a look in my ear, and they had another look, and another look, and I'm sitting there thinking, what are they looking at? Then the doctor brings another doctor down, and she's having a good look in my ear, okay, because they syringed it, and they're looking. And they found this thing in there through one of the channels, it's like a crystal with things with crystals on it. Well, I was shocked. I thought, what a thing with crystals on? What are they talking about? And of course, one of the nurses knows that I'm a medium. And she said, you always are a freak, Philip. And they left it at that. They went. And the doctor said, have you been abducted by aliens? Well, I could have died. I went back to the car, more worse than when I went into the doctor's. So, I don't know. You hear about these implants, and I believe that these implants are also placed into us as some form of tracking device to keep a record of perhaps some of the greys that you are assigned to a certain group of greys or whatnot. It makes sense. And now what we have in the news, everyone going to have a tracking device, a chip. How wonderful. Let's use a real psychological process to do that. Oh, what about if you get lost? What about if someone's still, that's okay and well, but when they start placing them in people's hands, how many hands are going to be chopped off? We're going to get into that stage where, I will never have a chip put in me, I don't care. Never, okay? And you'll see these psychological structured systems being implemented by the secret elite who bring it down into the medical establishments to make you believe that it's within your best interests to have this, and eventually they will create it law, so you can't back out. But the tagging system are very much linked to the greys, absolutely, because they are the beings that have infiltrated our plane, our dimension, and they are fascinating as well. It's not, although most people are horrified by them, they are fascinating to study. So although we look at a grey, or we depict a grey as a physical entity, there have been rumours as well too that some people believe that they are synthetic robots, or they're working on behalf of a higher mind. I don't dispute that. That is a possibility. A very good one as well too. They could be just simply drones working for something that we ourselves have not yet seen. And we also have stories centred around the military. A new thing is that the military have come forward, or through sources, to say that they have created these synthetic robots to abduct people, to make it look like it's aliens as opposed to them. Well, in my opinion, that's a waste of time, money, and all the rest of it. If that was the case, they could just simply abduct a person, knock them out, do what they do, put them back again. And this is where it gets really cranky, because most of the time now, because of the secret military industrial units around the world, we don't know whether what we're seeing is back-engineered technology or alien. And now the thing with drones is flying around is also something that they can blame it on. Do you see how they do it to us continuously over and over again? Yeah? Plausible deniability, okay? They do it, they're so good at it. They deserve Oscars, all of them, whoever decides these rulings as well. So I believe that a certain faction of greys are abducting people, and they're trying to understand us as a species, as perhaps they were before they cloned themselves, okay? And I also believe that they come from another dimension, or most of them do, because they're able to walk through walls and doors. They can arrest you simply by looking at you, paralyze you. They take you through walls and doors. And then as they take your etheric part of you to them, your etheric body is still attached to the physical body. Healers, people who heal people, they don't need to physically touch the person. Their energy is coming through the ether and affecting the physical counterpart through energy. Would you agree? The same with prayers, thoughts. So with regards to the greys, there's the spectres. They come through in their guise, through the walls and doors. They arrest someone, take them up. The soul is still attached to its physical counterpart, of course it has to be, and anything that affects the soul will affect the physical body. And most people think, oh, the other side, spiritual, whatever, it's all ethereal. No, because when the greys draw your soul into their domain, there is a sense of timelessness, because they have no time where they are. They're in a state of perpetual, eternal, perhaps damnation. And they're trying very hard to work out a way of where they've gone wrong. Think about the abduction phenomenon. Why, if it is true, which I believe it is, I know it is, with regards to hybridisation, why are they doing it? I don't believe it's just to make them, live on our planet or giving them free passage into this world from theirs. I believe it's much more than that. That's far too simple in my eyes. And then the women who have been abducted, the female women, basically after about, maybe a month or two, maybe a month, they've lost the child. They don't know where it's gone. And then, through a lot of other encounters, they find themselves up in a ship having to bond with this hybrid baby of theirs because the greys want them to introduce love, compassion, understanding. Don't you think that's very suspect also? Would you agree, ladies and gentlemen? Very suspect, isn't it? We have to look, with the data that we have, we may have to look outside the box, because at the moment, even Jacques Vallée, who I had the esteemed honor of meeting, Jacques Vallée was linked with Dr. J. Allen Hynek, and they portrayed Jacques Vallée as the Frenchman in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And he said, if anyone can tell me what a UFO is, I'll give them a lot of money. And everyone remained silent. Yes? There is also another area which is quite distressing and disturbing. Sorry, that's twin souls. Sorry, I do apologize. There we are. Is the contention, and we have to be open-minded about this, because a lot of our history is wrong. A lot of what we've understood about creationalism is wrong. What we are, where we come from, the missing link, which we still cannot find, because I am of the firm belief that other extraterrestrials had come to infuse ape with part of them, and thus created us. It was said that we were a slave labor force. Well, nothing's changed today, has it? Nothing. We're still slaves to the system. Unless, of course, you step out of line, then they grease the brakes or they do something else terrible. But we have to go into ancient times, biblical times as well, that goes even further back from the Bible, because a lot of the Bible, I believe, is like stuff that's taken from older books that go back into our antediluvian cultures. The Prince of Darkness is this, portrayed as this entity that fell from grace, and he fell with his army of angels. So, is there a possibility, another theory, that these demons of old are trying very hard to penetrate our physical dimension, and that the only way that they're able to do that is through some form of secret hybridization program? I know that we have to bypass a lot of the information on YouTube, which is sometimes, more times than not, wonderful, but also suspect. And and a lot of the stuff, there's some wonderful stuff on there, but you have to understand that we may also possibly be dealing with an ancient enemy that has been here for a very long time and is able to deceive us into the way they portray themselves. One of the things that fascinates me about the Greys is their eyes, black. If you think about it, black eyes, which means they come from a dark realm. And my argument's always been as well, just putting this little bit in for all of you good people, is that through my arguments with some people who want to push me down, I say to them, if we were the real inhabitants of this planet, if you look at the whole of nature, nature has adapted itself well to its environment, except us. And the person said, what do you mean us. And I said, well, we need to shield our eyes from the sun. If we were the true inhabitants of this planet, we would have had a far more pronounced frontal lobe to protect us from the glare of the sun, and a lot of hair on us to protect us through this cold weather and hot weather. Well, more cold than hot. So that's just one area. If people think that, or they believe in the old school books and the old professors and the old scientific reasoning of how we came into being, which is a complete rubbish and Sunday school version. It could be possible that these beings are trying to find their way back into this realm through, maybe again, hybridization. We don't know. At the end of the day, we can only theorize. We only have a model, a theoretical model of what we're dealing with, and we have to look at each of these cases. Are the Greys synthetic robots? It's a possibility that's been designed by another race to investigate us as a species. Or are the Greys cloned souls that have amalgamated themselves into a one-mind hive consciousness and penetrated this realm, rather like a poltergeist, but on a much more clever, a much more detailed and aggressive level. And they've worked themselves to try and they've worked out how we work, and they thought, well, let's spend some time and see if we can work with this species. Or are they creatures of old that have come back, or they found a way through to try and penetrate this physical dimension? I believe also that a lot of the stories we get, we hear about, are the reptilians. Now, I'm not here to, make anyone or convince anyone of what happened to me. I put that to one side now because I'm more interested in the truth and also in what these things are. And, for someone to come forward and say, yes, this is what it is. Whatever it is, I will accept that if it's proven, but it's still not. I saw 3 reptilians on that ship, and most people would laugh, reptilians, they've heard a lot about them. But going back into the book of Sky Crash that I co-wrote with Brenda Butler, and most people got that wrong. You see, when people do book reviews for authors, which is so wonderful and nice, and they buy your books, but some people don't buy them, they don't read them, and most people thought that the Rendlesham Sky Crash Throughout Time was all about the Rendlesham. No, it wasn't. It was about the things that happened before and afterwards. And Brenda Butler, this is absolutely true, that she met a reptilian that Scotland Yard wanted and other authorities wanted, and who actually, with Brenda, met with the very top, a lord, at the House of Lords in a meeting. It's all proven. And it was all very strange when I started digging through the research with Brenda about these events and what was going on. And of course, these encounters always leave you with a level of high strangeness about them. Have any of you had something strange happen to you? Anyone here? Yes? And has that left you feeling like everyone else is going on as normal and you're like, what on earth is going on? Yeah? It's like when these things come in, when people see UFOs or sometimes in some cases a deceased loved one in normal circumstances on a loving vibrational level energy, everything changes. And I know that UFOs are able to change the environment as well when they come in. They're able to change the whole, energy system around their area. And my brother, myself, and a friend called Susan, back in the late 90s, did an experiment in Rendlesham Forest, and we actually brought a craft towards us. We went there with no filming, no equipment, nothing. It has been registered and written about. We went into the forest. We asked whoever it was that was responsible for these crafts to, show themselves to us. So we were at home all the way in Bedford, meditating, asking them. That's why one of the chapters is called Calling Occupants, to do with the Karen Carpenter song. I like that song. I like Karen Carpenter very much. Her music's beautiful. And then we went to the forest a week later. And we were in the forest, and I went past the trees into the farmer's field, which was dark. And if the farmer catches you in there, he'll, sometimes fire off a shot to try and scare you. And we sat in a circle and we meditated. And to cut a long story short, a huge pyramid-shaped craft appeared with a circular undercarriage above these trees. It didn't move, but it didn't move from its position, but it was moving like a clock, one this way, the other one that way. And then I started to run towards it. And my friend Neil Geddes-Ward, who's an author and a documentary maker as well, he did a small intro on YouTube about it, which was fascinating. So they also wear from us through our minds what we think. I don't believe that all of them are evil. No, I'm not saying that. And our perception of them as being evil, you know, that's the way we see them. Perhaps they've got their own agenda and their own goals. So the reptilians have been seen all over the world, and I know we get a lot of things about, you know, people, you know, reptilians being in this world today, okay? I won't discount that fact. I will not, because there's overwhelming evidence to suggest that people have had genuine encounters with them. Most of them negative, some not so negative, but like us as a human race, there'll be those that will be positive, and unfortunately a lot of them will be negative as well. So I just wanted to read something to you here that I think you might find a little bit interesting about the greys as well. And just here, if you bear with me, I have to take my glasses off to read. Let's assume, through our hypothetical theory, that the greys were indeed once able to reproduce themselves. Through the act of cloning, could it be possible that these extraterrestrials have lost the ability to reproduce, probably through some environmental collapse upon their world, and found that cloning seemed the only answer in order to continue their race? Or is it possible that the greys had cloned an army to explore the universe, as many assume? Whatever the theory, we are in no doubt that the greys represent some form of cloned entity. There are some authors and researchers who believe that the greys are advanced robots, although I will tread lightly upon this idea, and I fully respect other people's thoughts on this matter, this seems unlikely in the event of what the greys are doing with regards to their so-called hidden agenda. Robots would need to repair themselves, however biologically advanced they were in terms of physiology. They would also need a program to work towards, and depending upon the minds of their creators, there would be limitations to what these machines were able to carry out. It's going to be quite a long journey to get a robot to do something as advanced as, you know, getting a human male and female together to create a hybrid, you know? If, as we assume, the greys are clones, then I feel the ethical question of the soul must be brought into question. As humans, we are in agreement that the physical body does indeed house the spirit, that its main purpose in this life is to experience this third-dimensional realm. And through reproductions, we're able to continue this cycle of rebirthing as a means to bring the soul into the Earth's matrix from its natural sojourn. The clone greys once inhabited a physical form, but were only able to experience one single life in that body. Once its corporeal self died, the question of where its soul gravitates to is questionable, namely because clones reside outside the field of creation. Unlike their masters, the original copies, these clones would not, to my mind, be able to return to a spirit world like we do, because they have not come into the loop of natural conception. Therefore, with only the experience of one single physical life, as I said, these greys would have no understanding whatsoever of the continuation of their soul. It could be argued that if millions of greys were cloned, then their spirit, which would not follow their original masters, would gravitate to another dimension. They may well have grouped together as a one-mind-hind consciousness and have found a way to infiltrate this plane of reality through some form of psychic projection, which does seem to be the case in a lot of examples there. It would appear then that these clone souls are interested in the concept of human reproduction, and this may be their answer in somehow bringing them back inside the loop of creation through us. Okay? Spirits in a material world. So we can theorize that the greys are indeed clones, that they were constructed to experience one physical life and therefore outside the normal process of incarnation and reincarnation, which our human souls experience. Once these greys died physically, their souls, unable to return to a spirit world, have grouped themselves together as an united consciousness and have penetrated our plane through a very powerful process of psychic manifestation. The process of an abduction is not that dissimilar to a near-death experience, as we explained. These cases, whereby an individual has physically died for a brief period of time, find themselves removed from their physical body. In many cases, they travel down a tunnel after seeing an incredible light. And basically, The abduction is, as we said before, a complete reverse of the experiences that people have when they die. So, to my mind, I believe that our whole concept of the UFO phenomena, in its physical manifestation, yes, there are physical crafts. They perhaps come through dimensionally and configure themselves into construct themselves into a physical mass as they come into our dimension. And I do know also that with regards to the abduction phenomena, that the eminent scientists and professors who have been involved with the research have tried to be ridiculed, by the media machine. And I think we all know that the media machine is controlled by higher echelons within the system, as I call it. So through my own experience of having a very bad experience with regards to these things, these creatures, the greys, it's kind of like opened up areas of thoughts that I, never would have thought about. And then it goes deeper, because the more you get involved with UFO research, the more tunnels you go down. Sometimes you come down towards a lot of locked and bolted doors. Sometimes you've got to deal with some people who are not who they claim to be. But I will just say to you this, that when you're doing your UFO research, you must believe how it makes you feel. How do you feel when you're dealing with any form of subject? And this is why we have so many indifferences within our world, because everyone is fighting to control other people's thoughts, okay? And just go forward. These beings here, not a nice chap. I met him last week, Yeah, I'm only joking, don't worry. These creatures here represent, obviously, ancient, going back into the very ancient past of our histories. So I also believe that, and even in cave paintings and some of the ancient monoliths, these things have been, carved on the walls, and our understanding of them as being benevolent space creatures, it's possible they could have been. And remember, there may be different factions of these entities. There's not just one. It used to make me laugh because I believed that when I was a child, that the world went on forever and ever. I didn't understand anything about a planet. I believed we were flat on the ground. And when the teacher told me and showed me on a blackboard that we're on a planet, I grabbed my chair because I thought I was going to fall off. And I think the same is going to happen with our understanding of what we're dealing with here, because these entities are real, they exist. And the reason that we don't understand them is because they are so far removed from our current psychological unconscious acceptance of them. Now, there are some people who, as mediums, they link with the departed, the loved ones. And if anyone says to you, well, it's the devil tricking you, nonsense, okay? We know through energy what is right, what is wrong. We know what's positive, we know what's negative. And as I said before, more times than not, people who are very open-minded, it's to do with the mind consciousness. You see, when we pass over to the other side, what happens is that when we die, because the brain brings consciousness into a very low form of awareness, conscious awareness, the only way that it can understand this world is through the senses. So when we die, consciousness is removed through this limited flow of awareness of self, and that's why it becomes euphoric. And most people who die, who have crossed over or had a near-death experience, are whole again. They're completely in a completely different, they know where they've come from, everything seems to make sense to them. So obviously, there is an aspect of ourselves which is much bigger than what we represent here. And yes, I did have an experience when I was a child of crossing over where I nearly drowned. So I understand about what we are, what we represent, where we come from, why we are here, which is perhaps because we are trying to understand about love on a much more deeper and richer level. If we are complacent in eternity, there's going to be a moment where our souls say, well, let's go down, let's go through this really horrible experience. Sometimes it's good, sometimes not. Let's lose the people we love. How do you feel? And then at the end, you see them again. I always say to people, life is like being on a roller coaster. You fear it until you get off and you're shaken, you kiss the ground because you've got through the experience. And that experience, everything else is easy for you. You understand? And with regards to our concept of UFOs and psychic matters, they are all connected. And maybe, through this experience, we're beginning, all of us, to realize that we have been lied to, that we have been disinformed, that we are not crazy, that when you're watching TV, how many of you actually watch it and think, what a load of rubbish? Most of it's brain-numbing stuff, isn't it? It's like, what are the celebrities doing? Shock horror. There was something with one of the celebrities that wore a different size shoe, and it made front headline pages of a magazine. I thought, this is reality. Yeah, and the real stuff is not known. And only occasionally will they bring something up on AOL about, look at this UFO, and then leave it. It's as though it never happened, which is very bizarre. So I am very much of the opinion that we have a structured system on this planet of human, stroke, perhaps alien beings, who are using us as the playground of life, and that this battle for supremacy and control of the soul has been going on for a very long time. And that the UFOs themselves we have been led to believe, are actual physical craft. Well, I believe that there is some form of magic that is linked with them or connected with them, because their technology is nothing less than magic. So what I want to tell you, and all of you here now, is that, and what's really interesting is the fact that you are all brilliant, wonderful. And I don't butter people up. I'm just going to tell you because I know from here and from what I've experienced. And that if anyone tells you that we are dealing with rubbish, you can tell them to go take a walk. And before I take any questions from you, I had 2 visions. In these visions, I saw the UFOs brilliant and wonderful, in dream state. When it came closer, I was so amazed. When I touched the UFO, it turned to an old dirty bottle. And in the other vision, it was of something like an old metal bar. What are they telling me? Are they telling me that I'm seeing something old that we wouldn't recognize on this planet here? I don't know. But thank you very much for listening to me. I'm going to take some questions now, if that's okay. Anyone have any questions, please? Yes?
Hold on, could we ask you to wait for the mic? It's coming your way. Thank you.
Can I just ask you, you mentioned nearly drowning as a child.
Yes.
Does that have anything to do with your abduction in any way?
I couldn't answer that. I'd love to say yes, but I have no way of knowing. I believe that things happen in our lives for certain reasons. The psychic and the UFO phenomena. When I'd gone to see a psychic who used to work for the military and also the FBI,
Right.
she told me that you'll be working with UFOs and talking to spirits, and she said this is to build the gap, and I kind of understood what she was saying.
Right.
But thank you, yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else have a question? Yes. Lady here, yes.
Can you tell me what happened when you ran with your 2 friends into the middle?
Yes.
Or have we got to read the book?
No, I'm
Right,
not one of
anyway.
those people. Literally, I was like a half-crazed hominid running through this farmer's field, and I remembered thinking, whatever intelligence was in there was obviously far more intelligent than I was. But it was incredible. And I remembered I didn't care. People say, it's not about other people. It's about what I experienced. That changed a lot of things for me, and it was incredibly beautiful. And yes, I was scared. I mean, I could have been blown to smithereens. It could have been a military, secret weapon or something, and I was running to it. But because its science so defied everything that I've ever seen before in its construction and its ability to just hang there and rotate as like a beautiful clock, stunning. Thank you. Yes.
Which one are you going for?
The lady with the glasses. Sorry, we've only got a short time. Hello.
Hello there. What do you think is happening in Antarctica?
Now, that's a very interesting point. I've heard a lot of rumor. Like most of people, we're all researchers. We've all got our noses poking somewhere. Interesting. We've heard that there's massive military presence there and that it's so secret that no one really knows. I suspect that they have, one, either discovered something there, which is ancient, which is alien, a base. Obviously, it has to be something that will benefit the military. And trust me on this, it will not benefit the likes of you and me, not by one bit. But I believe they found something, and they've discovered something, and whatever it is, they want to keep it quiet, as with everything, with all things that we try to research and bring to the public's attention, they want to quieten you down, you know? So I do believe there's something, and it's to do with extra-terrestrial, it is to do with a race, probably a civilization, maybe an ancient one. Maybe they found the remnants of its base, or they found a base or area of bases. But I do definitely believe that. Thank you. And the lady here, this lady here, this lovely lady here.
I just noticed that those aliens have a mouth and nose. Would you know what they eat? Or
I don't know. To be honest with you, the mouths with the greys are very thin, a thin membrane, and the nostrils, there's hardly anything there. I know that we've had reports of documents stating about their physiology when they've come into the flesh or into the physical. They don't last very long unless they're put on deep freeze. I couldn't tell you how they operated. All I know is that to my mind, it's like a soul or a spark of a soul controlling it, like a, you know, as I explained before, a bodysuit. You know, we wear bodysuits to go into the ocean to survive under there, don't we? We wear spacesuits when we're going into space, but I'm not going into the whole space program here. That will take up a whole day. Yeah. Thank you. There's a lady over there. Yes, madam.
Thank you. The drawings from your brother are fantastic. I was wondering whether he shared any of your experiences.
Yes, he has, definitely. I mean, he tends to shy away from the psychic part, but he has had UFO experiences, and which he wrote in Twin Souls. Capel Band brought out all these books here. I think they're based in Somerset as well too here. So, but yes, he's also, and they seem to be, they also, when people have these experiences, it seems to change them. They become more artistic, more open. So embrace your artistry, and all of you. Embrace your gifts. Whatever form they take, embrace them. And know that, you know, as long as you feel and are a good soul, a good person, it is so delicious to keep studying and searching and seeking for the truth. And, you know, that's one of the things that keeps me going, the truth of God. Yes, I don't deal with rubbish, I deal with facts, and I deal with this wonderful subject of what and who we are, where we come from, why we're here, and it goes on and on. So, you know, that is something wonderful. And also, you know, I'm not against these. I would want to understand them, to link with them, maybe on a psychic level, to tell them that we are love, that, you know, we can understand each other, that we just want to understand you. That chap there, gentleman. We've only got 5 minutes.
Hello. Do you know in indigenous cultures, like in Native Americans, and that they seem to have a long tradition of contact with star people or star beings, you know, and especially in South America, it's very strong.
Yes.
What's your opinion on that?
I don't doubt it.
Yeah.
I don't doubt it. There are other species, other extraterrestrials. It's not just, you know, I'm not an expert in anything. I can only bring out a theoretical model, but most definitely the indigenous tribes and species of our planet, you know, with regards to contact. Yes, the North American Indians, they very much sacred. And it makes me laugh about the cowboy films because the Americans always made the cowboys look like the hero. Actually, it was the poor North American Indians who were just trying to protect their sacred land and their belief in their gods and their people. So yes, absolutely, totally.
It seems like we're living on an avatar planet. It's like the movie Avatar. It's like it's actually happening.
Do you know how many species of animal and insects are on this planet, and they are alien to us? The same could apply to other dimensions.
Yeah.
But these ones here, the greys, seem to be the ones who are more known or, you know, more connected in a psychological way, because Hollywood have pushed it, and then because they want to cover it with Hollywood. Oh, you've seen too many films. No, people know. Yes, what was used to be a physical experience, like the Betty and Barney Hill case, in remote areas, they could come down, some of them. Now we're so overpopulated, probably they've stepped up their program. But thank you very much indeed for having me, and I hope that you've enjoyed the talk. And you can always, get the books anywhere online or order on Amazon or anything like that. But I really appreciate your turnout and very much for your understanding. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Philip. Philip Kinsella. Brilliant.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lovely stuff. Thank you so much. Thank you.